The 60 Minutes piece pulled by the head of CBS News has now been seen around the world, all because of a streaming slip-up. The story is a deep dive into treatment of Trump deportees at a notorious prison in El Salvador. CBS News editor-in-chief Bari Weiss decided to shelve it, saying that it was not ready. But the already approved episode was published by a streaming platform in Canada all the while, and it's now gone viral. CNN's chief media analyst Brian Stelter has been tracking this one. He's got more. Brian, what happened here? Isn't the internet amazing? That's my takeaway about this story, because this video clip has spread all across the internet. It's on sites like Reddit and Blue Sky and Axe and even YouTube. Although CBS has been trying to get it taken down, what happened is that it's actually pretty common in television when a piece is taped, when a show is taped ahead of time, it gets transmitted, it gets delivered to various computer servers. In this case, the finished episode on Friday was delivered to a Canadian TV network called Global TV, because Global TV has the rights to air 60 Minutes in Canada. So, the episode was done as we talked about, and people inside CBS thought it was ready to go. So it was delivered to Global TV, and then it popped up on Global TV's streaming app, I think probably automatically and inadvertently on Monday. Some smart Canadian viewers noticed this on the app. They started recording it off their TV sets, and boom, now the thing is viral, and now the whole world is able to see what all the fuss is about. And when you do watch it, and again, these are bootlegged copies, but when you do watch the report, you see it's a pretty common, pretty ordinary 60 Minutes investigation. It is notable that several of these detainees are interviewed describing torture as conditions at the prison in El Salvador, and I want to make sure we continue to center those perspectives, because that was the point of the report in the first place. Here's what one of those deportees said to correspondent Sharon Alfonsi, quote, "The torture was never ending, interminable. There was blood everywhere, screams, people crying, people who couldn't take it and were urinating or vomiting on themselves." So that's the kind of testimony that's included in the 60 Minutes report that was shelved over the weekend, but not shelved soon enough. It is, to be fair to Bari Weiss, who has said this report was not ready and did not push the ball forward. A lot of these testimonies have been out there before. People can look at the Human Rights Watch report that was released in November. The New York Times see it. Other outlets have reported on these testimonies. The notable part about 60 Minutes, though, was that these interviews were on camera on the record, part of a taped piece that was going to be seen by more than 10 million people, since 60 Minutes is the most watched news magazine in the country. So that's really at the crux of the dispute now, and we don't know if CBS is going to go forward and actually broadcast this officially. But thanks to the stream, it's out there now. Okay, are you hearing anything from CBS? Just about kind of this development? Yeah. About this development in Canada? No. No comment from CBS about it. I think this was certainly embarrassing for the folks over there because they did try to shelve the segment. But look, internally there's been a lot of turmoil about this. Scott Pelley, other correspondent, speaking out at a meeting yesterday. 60 Minutes correspondent Tanya Simon defended the Alfonsi piece, said she believed it was ready for air, but she had to follow her boss's orders, her boss being Bari Weiss. So this is something that's still very much alive and controversial inside CBS. They're said to me overnight, this leak in Canada was the best thing that could have happened, because at least now the reporting is out there. Brian, thank you for your reporting. Appreciate it. Joining me now is former CBS News Chief Investigative Correspondent Ahmed Tan, who of course was also a regular contributor to 60 Minutes. It's good to have you with us this afternoon. I know you watched the piece. I watched it as well today. I'm curious your reaction to Sharon's story, especially in light of what you've heard about the changes that Bari Weiss is pushing for. Well, I think it was a classic 60 Minutes piece. It was deeply reported that had compelling characters, giving firsthand accounts of the brutality and the conditions, the horrific conditions inside the prisons. So to me, it was an A-plus kind of a piece. And I know Sharon, we worked together at 60 and also at 60 Minutes Sports, which she's a first-rate television correspondent and a reporter. We spoke briefly through email yesterday. I told her I was very proud of her. And I gave her my full support. And then she said, "Thank you very much," on both of those accounts. How is she weathering all of this? Well, I don't really know. I mean, she's not talking beyond the memo that she wrote, the email that she wrote, which I thought was incredibly courageous. And for putting her job on the line. No question. She's not in a safe space right now. I'm be pretty sure about that. But, having worked there for 8 years, it's a special group of people. It's really not a job. It's your life. You completely invested in these stories. And certainly in her case, to have, 5 different screenings. Most of the pieces that I did, some of them were investigative in nature. You would go through 3 screenings. To go 5 means that Tanya Simon, the executive producer, and all the other people there that were responsible for this standards and practices, vetting legal, they were meticulous in crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. So, as I said, I watched it. I thought it was a classic 60 piece. Yeah, absolutely. You talk about the email that she wrote, and, I've heard from a lot of people the courage that they see, and that the bravery, as you point her job very well, may be on the line. And being so public about it, a number of things that she wrote stood out to me. But this is one of them. She talks about, specifically, this push for statement. And it's important to note, she noted she did reach out to the White House to reach out to DHS. She reached out to the State Department. She writes in her email, "Government silence is a statement, not a veto." Going on to say, if the administration's refusal to participate becomes a valid reason to spike a story, we have effectively handed them a kill switch for any reporting they find inconvenient. That is especially poignant on the heels of recent comments from the president, in which he posted online that he wasn't happy with the direction of 60 Minutes and said, "If these are friends, then who needs enemies?" Do you think Bari Weiss understands what she meant by a kill switch? Sorry, and no, that's okay. I mean, absolutely. I mean, when you're doing these kinds of stories, you're obligated to go to the other side for comment. And oftentimes we would give them not specific questions, but obviously general directions in which these stories were going, and we were vigilant in trying to get the other side to talk. But if the other side doesn't talk, it's your responsibility to say that in the story. And that's what Sharon and the producer did, Oriana. So now I'm hearing and reading about, oh, there was comments back from the White House and DHS. Well, the White House, if I'm reading things correctly, basically didn't respond directly to what Sharon and Oriana were asking. They went off on a different tangent, as they're known to do. So my big issue here, if I could make this one point, is I don't know Bari Weiss. I've never met her, but what I do know is this is that if you're going to, and she has every right as an editor-in-chief to raise questions and concerns about pieces, but not in the 11th hour, not after not seeing 5 different screenings and coming in a day and a half before. This piece is there. It's already been vetted. That's just not the way things work, not in a network I've ever worked for, and I think, frankly, she's out of her depth here right now. And she should listen more than demand certain things or ask for certain things. And what I'm feeling and talking to people at 60 is there's just deep concern right now as to where the direction of the network is going. Does that concern include a full loss, essentially, of editorial control? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to go on that plank. But I think what you're seeing here is, and in the 8 years I was there doing these pieces, I mean, there was a system in place. There was those screenings they were very, very important. And there was a rhythm to how these pieces got on the air. And now, to come in at the 11th, well, we should do more of this. And why isn't this in the piece? That's understandable, but not at that point. Not after you've missed 5 different screenings going back into December 12th. And we should point out that's also part of the process for stories, right? There may be some back and forth. Your editors may have different thoughts, but that is part of the journalistic process. And Sharon even noted that she and her producer asked for a call, and they weren't granted 1 hour. It's really important to have your perspective, especially for the time that you spent there at CBS with your excellent work. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.